Now, back in the 60s and the 70s, when I would go to Island Dragway very often and see all the muscle cars of the era, the Chrysler Hemis and whatnot, I always wished they made a muscle motorcycle. Well, along came 1982, and by the way, you can watch this in 4K. Along came 1982, and I got to have a muscle motorcycle. And this, I'll explain more about that later. This, to me, is a true muscle motorcycle. Now, back in the 60s, I had two muscle cars, both Chevy 2s with the big engine. I loved muscle cars back in that time. But in the 70s, I was all caught up in AMAR and the RDs and all the two-strokes that I had back then, including my 750 Water Buffalo. And then came the 1000cc Suzuki that I converted to be in a West Cooley bike. And then the final thing that converted me over to big motorcycles, the GS1100E. Now, I consider that to be a muscle car of motorcycles at the time, because I was riding all of the two-strokes, and they were fun and they were fast and everything. But they were really uncomfortable. If you rode from my house to Loudon, that's about 6 hours on an RD. You know what I mean. You do it on a GS. It's like riding in a Cadillac or something. But anyway, the whole point I'm making is the GS to me was, for me, it was the first muscle bike. And a muscle bike meaning it wasn't full RPM and going through the gears. It was just you look around and pass somebody. It had the same thing that the Chrysler Hemis had, and all of the big block cars, the big muscle cars. It had that grunt and groan. That just don't even have to downshift. And from that day on, I fell in love with that bike, and here it is. It's going to be 41 years. It is 41 years already, and I still love that grunt and groan. So today we're going to get out on the open road, but it's a little different than normal days. Today I have to do the farm work real quick, and I have to get out on the open road because early this morning, sometime around 11 or 12 o'clock, we have rain coming through, and I do want to get a ride this morning. So let me not waste any time, get out there and help Karen, and get out on the open road. So I always try to look at the weather and try to plan, get the best bang for my buck here. Get the bike ready, get it cleaned up, and even though it may get wet. But the day was really cloudy, but the sun came out, and I love it when the weatherman is wrong. The fish are always right. They're hungry. I'm hungry. I need another cup of coffee. There's no substitute for just having an extra cup of coffee. And this time of year on a farm, and we are getting bucket loads of vegetables every day. We got peppers. She had jalapenos the other day. There was just some of everything. And by the end of the morning harvest here, we do the harvest together every morning. Look at it, nice cucumbers. And we have on the third batch of pickles this year. Nice eggplants came in today's, and some nice string beans. But we get that almost every day. That's why we have a little farm and we enjoy doing it together. But what I really enjoy is get that muscle car waxed up, polished up, fueled up, check the air in the tires, make sure we have, well, it looks like some rain may be coming in. We're heading out on the open road anyway, and the sun is coming out. Now, I always think one of the things that separates this bike from a lot of other bikes that I've owned, and maybe other bikes you've owned, is the power band. The way the bike delivers power, it's linear, it's smooth, there's tons of bottom end torque. You pull away from a light, if you just happen to be in second or third gear, it doesn't even matter. And there's not a lot of shifting necessary unless you feel like it, but it's exactly the opposite of my RD, where you better be shifting. You could wear out a toenail shifting the bike on a normal ride. And it's just me, I guess. I love my MT-09 with the quick shifter, but I love this bike for the opposite reason. You almost never have to shift it. When I got my Chevy 2 with the 327, 350 horse and a 4-speed, it was just thrilling. I would just get in the car, go through the gears, pull out on a highway past people. It was very thrilling. And I think the whole idea of a muscle car and of a muscle bike, if there is such a thing, the whole idea is that it's just a lot of fun to ride. It's just, and whether you go to the track or you don't go to the track or you go to the drags or whatever, it's just fun to wake up in the morning, have that cup of coffee, and know anytime you want, you can just scare yourself half to death. And it's fun. And one of the things I think about this bike that's, well, unique, maybe not as unique as I think it is, they got a lot of things right on this. There's a decent sized gas tank. You're not always looking for gas. You can get just a little under 200 miles to a tank of gas. The engine is torquey, easy to work on, easy to adjust the valves. There's no part of this that's high maintenance, that's really difficult to do. And it's not always going out of tune because it's not really that high strung. And after all of that, you get 45 miles a gallon. And it doesn't eat clutches up on a regular basis. And here we are 41 years later, and the suspension is still comfortable. There's a lot of good things about this bike. A lot. Now, Turbo Steve commented on one of the videos of the GS that all of the Suzukis of this era had really comfortable seats, and I know he has, the one he has a very similar seat. So his is an 83 to turbo, the NX85, but they use the same technology for the seat. The seat is super comfortable. And even Joe Padula with his, when he started riding it, same comment, the seat is wonderful. And you wonder over the years, you know, they've stood the test of time, and it's comfortable on a long ride. Now, when I was painting the wheels on this bike, Dallas, who has an 83 GS, commented he didn't know how it was going to look with the black wheels with the red stripe that matches the sticker on the gas tank. And then when he saw it all in one piece, he really liked it. I've noticed another thing that you wouldn't think is important, but all of these old school motorcycles, they have a certain sound, they have a certain vibration level. I don't know what it is, but they have a unique feeling when you're actually riding them. And they all seem to be, well, what the idea was back then, the number one thing was quarter-mile times, and that was fine. But they were still motorcycles that looked like a motorcycle. They didn't have that much body work on them or anything you had to take off. If you had to put a set of plugs in, you take out the wrench, in 5 minutes you're done. You have to do an oil change. Everything's right out in the open. Easy to work on. And being really honest, when I first got this bike and it was brand new, several of my friends had any number of different brands, and we would go for a ride, and everybody would want to take a test ride on this bike. And whenever anybody did test ride it, it was amazing the comments they got. I think it might have been a little ahead of its time in terms of the way it delivered the power or the comfort level, or even on rides up to Lake George when we were just doing a lot of highway riding, and somebody'd want to switch off with another bike for a half hour or so. The comments were always good. course, all styling of motorcycles, all artwork is in the eye of the beholder. But as I sit back, anytime I just kick back, shoot some pictures, look at the bike, come down on my computer to edit the video, I look at it and I just can't believe how good they had this. And this was 41 years ago. I think the guy that designed this, he should get the Academy Award. To me, that is a beautiful motorcycle. And there's a lot of small little details that I really like. One of them is the way the instruments are when you're riding the bike. They're right exactly in your field of vision. Another small little detail, the ergonomics, the bend of the bars, the height of the bars, where the pegs are, the fact that everything that vibrates is isolated in rubber. It just makes for a feeling that you're riding a Cadillac. And as I'm getting older, I appreciate the comfort level of the motorcycle a lot more than when I was young, a lot more. And it does remind me of my Chevy too, when you would punch the gas and that 4-barrel carburetor would open. Wow. And this bike, the same thing. When you get it into the peak part of the power band, it just wants to throw you off the seat. And it's not peaky like some of the smaller bikes, like my RD. Does not require a lot of shifting. So it's very easy to ride. And it's very easy to ride it on twisty roads. A lot easier than you think a big bike like this would be. A lot easier. And I did the EBC brake upgrade. I've had warped rotors, the original set and the spare. I actually had 2 sets of Suzuki rotors. And this set that Pokey got me, thank you, and the steel brake lines from Joe Padula. And it just made for a nice little upgrade. And by the way, I've mentioned this before, Dallas turned me on to the idea you can use a front disc on the back wheel. They're interchangeable, and it saves a few pounds. And little upgrades like that, every one of them at the end of the day count. Every one. Anyway, we're back from a really nice ride. The weather's starting to get cloudy, but we've been out riding around on this all day, and I have the feeling I've been driving a muscle car all day long. It's a great feeling. And that thing when you have a muscle car, and like Michelle's 396 Camaro, that's what muscle cars are all about, and muscle motorcycles. So I hope you did enjoy the video, and I hope you have the same passion I have for these older motorcycles. And thanks guys, one and all, thank you so much for watching.